Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum. Straight talk about you and your money. Now from the BizTalk studios, here is Gary Kaltbaum.
And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. I'm Gary Kaltbaum, your host. Hey, thanks for being with us today. Glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy that you are listening. It is Friday, April 19th, 2024. I usually say, hope you're having a great day. But for a change, we're going to say, hope you listened. You know, when it comes to the markets, we know we're just a voice on the radio. Handsome and buffed, but just a voice on the radio. You see me on TV most days on Fox News or Fox Business for 3 minutes at a time. But for you, I'm just a voice on the radio. Who the hell is this guy? And I also know there are other voices on the radio that talk markets. And when we tell you we got game, we're not kidding. And we listen back to every show to make sure what we wanted to say is conveyed the right way. You know, sometimes you can do a radio show and you meant to say something and then you listen back. It's not exactly what I wanted to say. But we've been listening back every day, and everything we have said is exactly how we wanted it to be conveyed. And namely, when we have been talking about protecting capital when the earth moves. And we're not just talking about protecting capital in crappy companies, SPACs, ridiculous valuations, but what we have seen over the last, we'll call it 6 to 8 weeks, and we use the little phrase that we made up with a little help from the Three Stooges. Little by little, piece by piece, inch by inch, stock by stock, sector by sector. And what we are actually talking about, and by the way, it's 3:48 p.m., market's going to close in 12 minutes, and I must tell you, as I speak, the Dow is up 196 points today. Yay! They're crashing. They're melting down the technology stocks / AI / semiconductors / software. And who on the radio 8 weeks ago started to tell you how one by one software stocks were breaking down? And who on radio told you on March 8th an extreme characteristic showed up? And we warned you the day before about it, that we were worried about an exhaustive sell-off where all the buying exhausted itself. And it's just a characteristic that does not show up often. And on March 8th, we opened hot and finished horribly. And we came on the show, I was in New York City, and said to you, this reminds us of something we've seen a few times in the past, and we think there's a good chance this will mark a top. And we specifically said to you, the high of that day will not get taken over anytime soon. And we specifically outlined the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, which was 5217 at the high of that day. And you never know how it's going to play out. But every day we would come on this show and tell you about the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And this one broke support and this one broke support. And as we have told you about the roadmap, the 50-day moving average and the next one and the next one. And then the XLK broke the 50-day. And then the IGV, which is software, broke the 50-day. But the indices hold up better because some of the big gargantuan names held up. And we specifically told you, and we went back and listened, that if they ever get the mega caps, that will be the indices. They've been getting the mega caps in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm not talking Apple that has been dead money for a while. I'm not talking about Tesla that has been dead money for a while. They're mega caps. You know what we're talking about? Well, there was AMD, which on March 8th at 227 closed at 208. It's 146. It was down another 8.5 today, but that's not the stock I'm even talking about. Salesforce.com broke down about a week ago and croaked this week for a bunch of points in the Dow. Microsoft broke the 50-day Wednesday at 415. It's already 398. Of course, last night, overnight, Netflix, oh man, down $55 today to 555. That's top, but that's just today. But what I really want to talk about is what has been touted to you as the end-all be-all. And I've heard the voices tell you, oh, you gotta own these for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We've heard also words like, oh, this is an area that you just stick with and put it away. And what do we tell you? We think you should think long term, but as long as what you have is working long term, you don't just sit. And what is that? You know, because everybody's been yelling and screaming about it. You gotta own them. Don't worry about them. It's gonna change our lives. Artificial intelligence. Well, if that's so great, why is Nvidia down $86 today to $760 as I speak, with about 7 minutes to go in the day? Completely breaking the 50-day. Why is the other AI, SMCI, Supermicro, you ready for this? Down $214 today to $715. And by the way, this was just added to the S&P. They're down what, Gary? Nvidia is down $86 to $760. That's 10%. Supermicro is down 23% to 715, 213 points. Those are pretty much the two main artificial intelligence companies. How can that be? Well, it's simple. Technology topped a couple of weeks with the software before March 8th. On March 8th, all these AI stocks topped. And they went through the process of topping out, and now they are crumbling. Oh, not to mention ARM Holdings, which has gone from 120 to 87 in the last 3 days, another AI stock. They are all now have topped out in a bearish phase. Their complexion has changed, and it does not matter what the announcements are now. When you go into a bearish phase, good news is not good news and bad news is worse. In bullish phases, bad news can be good and good news is great news. That's how it works. And that's why we're always using the term complexion changed. Oh, and by the way, Broadcom, the other AI stock, down 57 today to 1201. That broke the 50-day moving average. Wednesday at 1305. It's 1202 as I speak. So just letting you know, it was little by little, piece by piece, inch by inch. and now this. And we hope you listened. We had one tech stock coming into today. We even told you that we sold. Was Meta. We sold it today. They got that too. Made about 40%. They finally got everything. And of course, with the Dow up 200, the NASDAQ's down 324 and the NASDAQ 100's down 360. That's the story. And when we say to you how hard we work at this and how we do believe we got a good eye, here we go again. Up next, what about the Dow? And what about next? This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
Hi, I'm Gary Kaltbaum, host of the nationally syndicated radio show Investor's Edge. We're not just handsome radio people. We manage investors' money for a living, specializing in fee-based discretionary money management. No big commissions, just a fee on the assets that's managed. We also provide a full range of personalized services, including retirement planning, fixed income, and educational needs, all to assist you in achieving your financial goals. Understanding not all individuals have the same needs, we'll carefully evaluate your personal goals to determine a proper investment strategy. If your current approach to investing is not getting you to where you would like to be, call us to make an appointment for a complimentary portfolio review. The number to call is 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. Investment advisory services offered through Kaltbaum Capital Management.
It's time to switch on the integrator units and get the brain cells working.
You're listening to
Hey, this promises to be fun.
Investor's Edge
The last bastion of quality programming.
with Gary Kaltbaum.
It doesn't get better than this.
So all the big names are coming in. You know, those mega caps. The two names that were really holding up, well, three. First was Facebook, Meta, and that broke the 50 today. Google, that's been holding up, and that has not broken the 50-day, but Amazon they finally got today. That broke a little bit. They still relatively are in good shape. Now, what about this? What's going on with the Dow so strong today, but they are murdering? And, you know, I shouldn't use the word murdering and with what's going on in the world right now. They're just blasting. Shouldn't use the word blasting. They are selling down hard. That's better. The technology stocks. While the Dow all day, by the way, we were up 300 at one time. They took it down to only 100. And now they rallied back up to 221. How can that be? And what does that mean? Well, I'm about to give you some rules of the road that we'll see. And I'm going to give you the good part and the maybe not so good part. So listen carefully. As I have stated to you on this show, institutions, the big money moves the markets. We're always following where they're going. We get the stuff late, but we can tell when they're really buying into an area or selling into an area. You get a feel. What institutions do, they're just you and I, fear and greed. And what they will do, their portfolio managers will have meetings in the morning with executives, whoever else, and they will look at what they own. They'll look at their returns and they'll see what others are doing. And in a bull market for, let's say, Tesla, they'll see somebody that has a huge position in Tesla outperforming them pretty well, and they'll question, how come we don't have more Tesla? Which lends them to buy more Tesla. In other words, bull markets will tend to feed on itself. Greed will tend to feed on itself even at those levels. But what if Tesla is in a bear market, and they have those same meetings, and they see that somebody else, well, they only have that many Tesla. Oh, but we have a lot more. Oh, and it's hurting our returns. What will they tend to do? We need less Tesla. So it feeds on itself. Why would the Dow be strong while they're selling off the tech? And by the way, not just tech, but kind of the growth arena. Well, it's simple. The big institutions right now possibly are parking their capital in the biggest, what we call lower beta names in the market. What's a lower beta? Lower beta versus the market means it really doesn't move too much versus the market. In other words, it's not a hot stock and trades all over the map. And why would they be doing that? Well, we call it de-risking. De-risking. Out of the higher beta growth and technology that has done so well, and you know, here's a stock that doesn't move too much. Coke. Johnson & Johnson. In the Dow. Let's just get some of that for right now. And that's what happens. We call that parking. We're going to park in here. The problem with parking is they are still de-risking, and then eventually they get what's parked into. Also, we'd like to mention that the things that bounced today were things that just got hit in the last 2 or 3 weeks also, and really have no bullish setups for us. If there were bullish setups for us, I'd feel a lot better. So we're not sure. The one area that we feel is the oils. They were in pullback mode, and they bounced today, and we'll see what happens from there. All we're just telling you is that the beta / technology / software / AI / semiconductors got mauled again today, and we have been warning you little by little, piece by piece, inch by inch, step by step, stock by stock, and now the big guys are getting come after. Now, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft all report in the next 2 weeks. Who the hell knows what they're going to report, and we'll see. But for me, kind of, sort of, the die's been cast. Netflix was another victim today. We don't need to know why. They said this or that. And all I can tell you, we have our screen set up. We have one screen that we call our stuff boring screen. It was 90% green today, with the NASDAQ down 319 and the NASDAQ 100 down 356. The other 10% is the right column, and that was the semis. Broadcom down 54, ASML Holdings down 29, NVIDIA down 85. How can NVIDIA drop 85? It's the king of AI. You catching my drift? They touted you the most after its move. We touted you on the initial move above 505, and we told you we sold it at 850. We weren't thrilled with ourselves. We always like getting the top tick. It's now, at the close today, 761. And volume was heavy. That was not Aunt Mary and Uncle Bob selling. That's the institutions. We don't know how bad it gets. We don't know how far it goes. We'll be ready, we believe, when the complexion changes back. But at the close today, a miserable day. About as miserable as can be. about as miserable as can be. Monday, I have absolutely no clue. The analysts are going to come out defending, but the analysts have no clue about bullish phases and bearish phases. Remember, in bearish phases in 22, while their stocks were down 50%, they kept defending, not even realizing, dudes, in bear markets, the average growth stock is going to drop 70, and it's exactly what happened. Our edge is we know all these rules of the road, and we adhere to them. Them? Nah. Up next, what else I got for you? I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
You're listening to
America is talking.
Investor's Edge.
He's got to be pleased with that. The crowd is just on its feet here. He's a Cinderella boy.
With Gary Kaltbaum.
Comes highly recommended. You're going to feel better if you talk to him.
Okay. So, listen carefully. Number one, we do not have any clue how bad it gets, how far it goes. You got that? In July to last October, during that corrective work, the NASDAQ went from 14.4 down to 12.5, 13%. Right now, it's down about 8. Number two, corrections usually, not all the time, nothing's ever 100%, 3 legs to the downside. What does that mean? You drop, you have a counter trend bounce, you drop even lower, you have one more counter trend bounce, and then you do a third leg down that's even lower, and the bottom's put in. That's exactly what happened last July to October last year. We'll be looking for that. We will not be acting until we see it. But it's something we can think about. Number 3, that said, we know that technology is the most over-owned it has ever been versus the rest of the market, more than 99. And that's hard to come by. And it's true. The semiconductors, the most over-owned versus the rest of the market it has ever been. And what does over-own mean? It means all these big institutions have a ton of it. And what do you think fear and greed does to those institutions when it goes awry? The fear picks up, turns into selling, they have a lot of stock, and then it feeds on itself, and that's how you get NVIDIA down $85 today. I think 85 at the close now. And again, how could that be? It's NVIDIA. It's the king of AI. Haven't you been told that every freaking day when you turn on business television? And don't sell? That's why we pay attention to one thing and one thing only, the market and the roadmap and the rules of the road and the patterns they trace out and the understanding when something is too over-owned. Remember on the other side, oils? Do you remember that? We told you oils were underloved. And we told you in and around March 7th, they probably turned the corner here. Very tough on oils. You never know what OPEC's going to do next. And they had a good move before got pulled back pretty good in the last 2 weeks. We'll see how it plays out. But the main point is here, the most over-owned technology in history, and this has to be watched closely. But Gary, Aren't their earnings going to be great? Yeah, but it's not the news. It's how the market reacts to the news. And it's not what somebody thinks the valuation should be. It's what the market thinks the valuation should be. You got that? So those are some of the rules of the road. We owned only one tech coming in today. And we're careful about telling you what we do, but we thought it was imperative that we told you the day after March 8th, we sold all our tech except for Meta. And we also told you we had one little delve into the QQQ on April 11th, and we sold the next day. On April 11th, it looked like, they may have another run. They may have another run into the big tech. And we realized the next day we were nuts. And we sold. And then the next day they broke the 50-day. So that's the story. And next week, this is what we're getting. Just so you know, next week, SAP, the big software company, for starters. Spotify, which, by the way, topped out today, that's been strong. Tesla, well, that's been dead money for a while. Texas Instruments next week. Lam Research. Facebook is next week. We sold it today. Chipotle, growth, not tech. Qualcomm next week. ServiceNow, Teradyne, Checkpoint Software next week. Intel, KLA-10 Core, Google, Microsoft next week. Western Digital next week. We'll see what happens. We have no clue what happens on Monday. We know what happened today. And man, it was frickin' gross. While my stuff screen was up. JP Morgan up 4 after getting trounced on earnings. PNC Bank up 4. Some of these banks were up. You had a good day in Foodland and Tobacco Land. Smucker's up 3. Philip Morris up 2. It's the type of stuff that was up today. Oil stocks up. And in the Dow, United Health, that basically got mauled on government pay. They report earnings. And by the way, as a little note, this week, you ready? The Dow for the week was up 9 points. United Health was up the equivalent. The Dow was up 5 points this week. United Health was up the equivalent of 400 plus points. And it counts. You can't say, well, if you take out United Health, we don't believe in that. But we're just letting you know the story. American Express, if you see my American Express bills, you know why, was up today. And here's the interesting part. They reported earnings. American Express was down $7 in pre-market. Opened up $2, finished up 13.5. That helped the Dow today. Interesting enough. So a very low beta-ish, boring-ish, money flow day out of everything tech. And we already did a webcast like at 1, 2 o'clock today for our peeps that showed all this. And yeah, we're amazed at how they just blasted everything tech. But kids, this was started setting up 2 weeks before March 8th. And then March 8th was the fork. And now the fork that just was pricking the balloon popped it. And now it's just a matter of letting it run its course. How much we don't know. What reports next week and does well we don't know. And we'll take it as it comes. And again, that said, Netflix got blasted for 10% today. And by the way, we told you, what was it, Wednesday? Somebody had the grapefruits to go on TV and said Netflix is going to be up 10% on earnings. Not going to mention who. We don't like embarrassing people. But we loathe anybody telling you what's going to happen on earnings reports because we're good at this and we don't know. It was down 9%. They missed by 19%. Just letting you know. In other news, well, Israel did what we said they do. We told you Israel would not go full-fledged on them, that they were going to pick some spots, hit them, make it known they can hit them anytime, anywhere, and then back away. And this is exactly what happened. Iran, the wimps that they are very lucky. If some of those missiles got through and people were murdered, it wouldn't have been like this. But lucky for them, Israel and the U.S. and others stopped them and the barrage of missiles and drones that they sent in, and nobody was hurt. That's how inept Iran is. And I think we're probably going to have a stand down right now. That's my guess. That's the guess. I think Iran knows what the outcome would be if they went too far. And just so you know, last night, upon the news of Israel sending in, the Dow was down 550 points futures, and the NASDAQ was down 300. But the Dow did better, and the NASDAQ all day was misery land. All day. One little rally up when the Dow went to 300, and bye-bye at the end. Wish I had better news on that. The best news, we're going to sit back, relax, and wait for the turn, and be ready. Up next, whatever else as we head to the weekend, I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
You're listening to...
What are we waiting for?
Well, what are you waiting for?
1, 2, ready, go.
Action!
Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum.
All right, let us repeat. We have no clue what happens Monday. They can bounce the tech or not. We just know the die has been cast for now. We're going to let it run its course. What that is, we absolutely, positively do not know. We really don't. We know what a downtrend looks like. We know what an uptrend looks like. We know what topping looks like. We know what bottoming looks like. And boy, oh boy, they top the living hell out of these things. And I really, at this point, don't have any stone unturned in tech land. I don't have that right now. And I want you to remember, analysts are going to come out in droves next week. By the way, in case you don't know, in the last week, they upped targets on all these names that have been crushed the last few days, the past few days. Just letting you know. In the news, I had to bring this story up, and I'm not going to mention who, but I'm just reading a story about somebody's leaving California and moving to Tennessee. And they said the reason why is because they live in LA and they have another socialist Marxist control freak running. They won the election, mayor of LA, and they want to put another tax on the wealthy to pay for the homeless. Even though they've already done that a few times and they have more homeless than they've ever had. Interesting. What does that tell you? These governments run by people that don't have a frickin' clue about how to fix things and do things, have no idea about business. California has mandated $20 for high school students working at McDonald's who will lose their jobs. No, really, they'll lose their jobs. You're not paying a high school student $40,000 a year as an employee to flip burgers. It's just not going to happen. They just have no understanding. They think you can just throw money at everything. It's just like Joe Biden, the liar in chief, saying he lowered child poverty by 50%. And the reason why he says it is because they gave an extra tax credit to people, just a little bit under the poverty line, and has the nerve to say that takes a child out of poverty. He's an ass. He's an ass to come up with that BS. And I was just reading this, it's just one person, but it made so much sense. I'm getting the hell out of here. They want me to pay again the 5th time, and they're telling me it's going to be for the homeless, but they have 3 times as much homeless now than when they started taking money from me. We're not going to invest in failure anymore. I think there's a lot of that going on in the country now. You should see what's going on in Florida here. How many people are coming here? They're tired of it. They're absolutely tired of it. And speaking of Biden, still not a word from him on what's happening at Columbia University, where students are yelling, "We are Hamas." How about that? Yeah, we're Hamas. Where we're finding out a bunch of the professors are teaching students, literally teaching them anti-Semitism. Jews suck. Israel sucks. Apartheid this. Not a word from the president. But you do know when it happens to another race, out in force. Remember what we are here. There is no room for any racism in any way, shape, or form towards anybody. Ever. But in certain parts, it's picking and choosing, ladies and gentlemen. And if you see what's going on, these people are blocking roads and bridges. And I just keep tweeting 2 words, super soakers. When my kids were young, we had these super soakers that we used around the pool. That gets them running. And maybe if you put like some of that green slime from Nickelodeon into those super soakers and just whacking all these students, they'd be gone. And the good news is Google fired 28 of these idiots. Fired them. See ya. Have a nice day. And the police finally came in and dragged these maggots away. Unfortunately, they're not charged with hate crimes, which they should be. They're charged with misdemeanors and stuff like that, and who knows what the hell is going to happen. But we want to let you know, they are the minority. 99.9% of us, at least 99.9%, are going about our business. Waking up every morning wanting to do better for ourselves and our families, doing our things, while these idiots are just wasting their lives on hate and stupidity. Schmucks. And we have different words from my neighborhood we can call them, but I can't. So we'll just use that word. And that's Columbia University today. And unfortunately, it's coming from the top down. And I'm not so sure it's going to change so soon. But good to see some authorities using their authority. What a concept. Using your authority to fire maggots and dragging away doofuses in handcuffs. It's what I do. And that's a little bit of that in the news. And we'll leave it at that in the news as we head to the weekend. We'll have our big charity event for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida tonight. 7 a.m. tomorrow, I'll be on a Delta flight again up to the Northeast. Be with the parents for the whole weekend. And anyway, Wish I had better news. Hopefully you had a bunch of Dow stocks today. That all said, you have a great weekend. Drive carefully. When you get home, do like we do. Quite simple. Make sure you hug your family. Make sure you hug your children. They will feel better. You will feel better. I promise. Peace out, all. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we're helping. Serenity now. Bye-bye.
This has been Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum on BizTalk. To listen to past episodes or to get in contact with Gary, go to GaryK.com. That's GaryK.com.